Hi, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, before I go into my 8-minute presentation, I have 2 minutes just to tell you a bit about myself. My Aliyah journey began not far from this building, across the street, at the Supreme Court. In 1996, the year after I graduated from Columbia Law School in New York, I came here with my wife and our small kids to clerk on the Supreme Court here in Yerushalayim for a year. And it was during that year, clerking for Justice Yitzchak Zamir, that I met some of the people that were beginning to form the emerging tech ecosystem, not only in the country, but here in Yerushalayim. People like John Medved and other people who are just starting to build out what we now know as the Jerusalem tech ecosystem. It was during that year that we got bit by the bug, went back to New York, but ultimately about a year and a half later came back on Aliyah, back here to Yerushalayim. If you would have told me back then that there would be an organization that would fly you here at their expense in charter planes called Nefesh B'Nefesh, a conference like this filling Binyanei HaOma with English-speaking booths, a business seminar for English speakers in Yerushalayim, I would have laughed in your face. So we've come a very, very long way, and kol hakavod to the organizers and to Nefesh B'Nefesh and to Made in Jerusalem and certainly to the JBNF and many, many other people for helping to make events like this possible. So as Joe said, I founded and manage Jumpspeed Ventures, which is Jerusalem's first and only micro fund investing in early stage technology companies. And I also office at Pico Yerushalayim in Talpiot, which is managed by Isaac, who you'll hear from in a moment. So we know each other extremely well. I want to take just a few minutes to dive in as quickly as possible into the process of bringing your startup company or your startup idea from idea, not just to product, but to what I call my favorite topic, which is product market fit. Startups are hard, and the hard thing about hard things is trying to simplify them, trying not to let them get too out of control. I want to try to, in just a couple minutes and in 10 slides, simplify the process of the idea to product market fit chain of events. The way that I look at it when I'm starting a startup, the way that I ask my founders to look at it when they're starting their startups, and the way that I looked at it when I started Jumpspeed about a year ago. Followed the same path, and I'm going to walk you through that path as quickly as I can in 10 slides. So product market fit is about getting a round peg into a round hole and not cramming a round peg into a square hole. Point number 1 out of 10, what is a startup? Steve Blank, the great Steve Blank, who created the lean startup methodology, says, a startup is a temporary organization, not a company. A temporary organization. If you work for a startup, you don't work for a company. You work for a temporary organization that is in flux, that is by definition not stable, not guaranteed, and not rooted. It is looking for something. It's looking for a scalable and repeatable, sustainable business model. It hasn't found it yet. When it finds its business model, then it's a company. It's not a startup anymore. That's his definition, and I believe in that fully. So you're taking your idea from this idea, you're searching for your sustainable, scalable business model. What's your guiding principle? This is Paul Graham. I hesitate to quote him this week because for the last few weeks, he's made a lot of anti-Israel statements on Twitter, but Paul Graham is the founder of Y Combinator, which is arguably the world's greatest accelerator program in Silicon Valley. And Paul Graham distills it into 4 words that are the 4 most important words that I think a startup could ever say or think about. Make things people want. Notice he doesn't say make things people need. Need is great, but sometimes people want things because they need it. Sometimes people want things because they just want it. Both of those companies can make money and be extremely successful. Make sure that you're making something that people want. Yochi Slonim spoke about this earlier today. We could talk about it for a long time, but so many companies, so many startups are making something that the people don't necessarily want. It's a cool idea, it's a funky technology, but the market doesn't want it. So make sure you're making something that people want. How do you know if people want it? Who determines product market fit? Who determines that your product fits the market? Not you, not me, the investor. We may think that we're very smart, but we don't know what the market wants. Only these people Only the market. You have to talk to the market. You either have to know the market extremely well or get out there and talk to them to make sure that your product idea meets a market want. We're moving along quickly. What is most important as an investor when I'm looking at a company, as a company looking at the market? What's the most important thing? A lot of investors will say, a lot of VCs, if you talk to VCs, will say, VCs are venture capitalists. If you talk to a venture capitalist, they'll say, we invest in teams, we invest in people. I would argue, and people much smarter than me have written, including Mark Andreessen, who's one of the greatest venture capitalists of our era, it's not about the people necessarily, it's about the market. Everything begins with the market and works backwards. If you have a great team, all-star cast, and they're building something that the market doesn't want, we all know that they will fail. You have to start with a great market. You have to start with a market that is great and has a really big want. Again, not necessarily a need, but a want. The market wants something, and voila, you've got it. You've got the answer, and you've got the team to do it. Everything works backwards from the market. We're reaching the midpoint in our analysis of product market fit. So you have your idea, you believe, because you don't know, but you believe that there's a market for it and the market wants it. And I would say that most startups, at least in their own mind, pass this test. We believe that we've created something cool. We know like 3 people that want it, so it's got to be, good. There's got to be a chance. Why do most startups fail? 9 out of 10 or 95 out of 100 startups fail. Yet those startups believed that they had something that the market wanted. They weren't stupid. They thought that the market wanted what they needed. And maybe I would go so far as to say somebody in the market did want what they had. So why did they fail? My argument, and I wrote an article about this called The Black Hole of Meh, and you can look it up on Medium. My argument is that most companies have some sort of product market fit. It's not that they don't have it. Product market fit is not a yes or no. We have it or we don't. Most companies have some degree of product market fit, but probably not enough. Probably not enough of a product market fit to carry that startup out of the tiny little garage or hole where they started and out into the big wide market. So most companies fail because they fall into this black hole of, we see an app that somebody created. It's okay, it's kind of cool, but probably not going to use it. We're probably certainly not going to pay for it. So it's interesting, but not interesting enough to get us, the market, to gravitate or move over to that product. If you want to succeed as a startup, you have to nail product market fit. You can't just check the box on product market fit. You have to totally crush product market fit in a way that somebody else or nobody else has. Ben Horowitz, who's Mark Andreessen's partner at Andreessen Horowitz, says, if you want to be a successful startup, you have to move the needle 10x. You have to be 10 times better at product market fit than anything else in the market. Not just a little bit better. Not just move the needle a little bit. You have to be radically different than anything else in the market to succeed. You could argue with that statement, but clearly there's an indication that product market fit is not just yes or no, but it's a degree, it's a scale. And to succeed as a startup company, you have to be way on the other side of that scale. You have to really be unique. And that's the reason why most startups fail. Because what they came to the market with was okay or interesting, but not enough to generate millions of dollars or millions of users. So how do you know? How do you find out? How do you know if you have enough of a product market fit? You've got your idea, you think some people want it, or maybe even some people want it. How do you know that enough people want it or that there's enough of a demand to keep you going and raise the money and do what you need to do to build your product and succeed? Steve Blank again says, and I believe strongly, get out of the office. Too many startup companies hunker down in a garage, crank out what they want to build, and then introduce it to the market and expect everyone to bow down to it. It's not the way it works. Get out into the market from day one. Be talking to people in your target market. Stealth mode, if you've ever heard that term, I don't believe in it, and a lot of other people don't. If you're talking to people about your product, you're getting feedback from them. Don't give away anything proprietary. Don't give away the secret core of how you're doing what you're doing, but just make sure that what you're doing is going to be interesting to enough people to validate your journey in creating this product. If they don't live where you live, get on the phone, get on the internet, find a way to get feedback from people early on, Because most companies, even the successful startups, which again are 1 out of 10 or 5 out of 100, most of those, statistically, have changed direction during their life from what they themselves started to do. Again, even the most successful startup companies have changed direction from what they started to do, which means that even the successful companies were getting feedback from somebody, were a little bit off, and changed direction, and then they hit the home run. So get out of the office early and often, be talking to people in your target market to craft and move your journey towards product market fit. Okay. This is my favorite slide, and this should resonate with a lot of people in the room. You have to be passionate about your product, but you have to be prepared to throw it on the ground and break it. We have a great model from one of our favorite books of somebody who did this. When you have to do it, you have to have the guts to do it. When you get that feedback from people, when you see what's going on in the market below you, and you know that what you're holding is not right for that time, you have to be prepared to throw it down to the ground and start again, either in part or sometimes in whole. You're on the right path. He was on the right path, but he needed to go back into the drawing board, start again, and bring it out again. You need to be prepared and have the guts to do that too. Number 8, MVP versus MDP. Again, I don't know how many of you are in the startup space, but if you are, you've probably heard the 3-letter acronym MVP, minimum viable product. That's another term that I don't necessarily believe in. I believe in a different term advocated by Andrew Chen in a famous blog post called MVP, minimum desirable product. Your product doesn't have to be viable from day one. It doesn't have to be commercially viable. You don't have to make money from day one. It has to present to the market the minimum desirable experience to get people to want to use it. Whether you're a business-to-consumer product or a business-to-business product, what you're bringing to the table has to be minimally desirable for them to keep using it and tell other people to use it. It doesn't necessarily have to make money right away. You can make money a little bit later, but it has to be minimally desirable. Focus on your MVP. I suggest that you read Andrew Chen's article on MVP, write it down. It's a great, great piece. Last 2 slides. Are you there yet? So you've gotten through your idea, you've gotten your product market fit, you've talked to people in the marketplace, you think you're on the right track, you believe you have your MVP. How do you know? How do you know if you're on the right track? Sean Ellis was one of the great founders of the lean startup methodology, he writes a lot, has a great test. He says, give your product to some people, give them a beta, and then take it away. If they call you back and say, what the heck? We want that product back. We're really upset. Then you know you're onto something because you validated 2 things. You validated what they wanted, and it's desirable to them, it's minimally desirable, and there's no other alternative. If there was an alternative, then they just wouldn't call you back and use the alternative. We did this with one of our companies in our portfolio. It was fascinating. We started the beta, and without really concentrating on it, we took it away. We stopped the beta, and we started to get angry messages and phone calls from people that were using the product saying, what happened? We need this. Bring it back. That's when we knew that we were onto something at the very, very earliest stage that we had met all these initial slides. Product market fit, market need, market want, minimally desirable. It was all coming out because we were giving it to them and taking it away. I generally suggest that you try that in one form or another. Don't focus on sales and marketing. Don't focus on other things, and make sure you have a minimally desirable product. Until you have that, don't rest. You must be confident that you have your minimally desirable product, and then blast it out to the market. Don't spend money on marketing until you know that you have your MVP. Finally, the last slide, the holy grail. How do you become Waze? How do you become WhatsApp? How do you become Facebook? Waze, WhatsApp, Facebook, I don't think any of those companies spent a dime on marketing. We use them because we have to, because our kids use them, because our friends use them. We were pulled into those products. We pulled those products out of the companies. The great companies are pulled, the products are pulled out of the company rather than pushing it on the market. The great combination of product market fit is when the market pulls the product out of the company and the company's not ramming the product into the market. When you reach market pull, when you push the product into the market a little bit, you've given it a little bit of a nudge, and the market starts to pull it out, and more people start calling you or downloading it or talking about it with their friends. The way we heard about Waze, not from Waze, we heard about Waze because somebody said to us when we asked for directions, "Man, look how Waze." That's when the market is pulling the product out of the company, and that's when you've made it. So I wish you all tremendous success with your startups, from idea to product market fit, finally to market pull, and then